Hey, everyone out there.
Hey.
I am so excited about just all of what's going on right now. I mean, we have Mother's Day coming up, but here at Shoot This, we're not celebrating just Mother's Day, just one day. We're celebrating the entire month because I think we need a bigger celebration for that because there's so many ladies out here in the world, all different types that go through different things. And when it comes to the gun community, it's one of those things where you don't hear much. You hear, okay, well, somebody's in the gun community, sure. Okay, yeah, might be a lady in the gun community, sure. But let's
Mhm.
add a little bit to it. A mom that carries a gun. How many conversations do you have about that? Probably nada. So
Absolutely.
here we are having that conversation today. And I have with me none other than Miss Monique Clark of Lioness Defense, who is an excellent person to have this conversation with. She's been in the gun community for quite a while, has her own business, and is a mom of two. And she is just out here doing it, you guys. So sorry, mom of four. I apologize.
Newly four, I forgive you.
Yes.
Newly four.
Sorry, guys. So it's one of those things where you gotta I gotta pick it up. I gotta remember it is four. So how is that going? I know that's a big difference.
Girl, two boys and two girls is a lot.
Yes,
But it's
yes.
good. It's good.
I hear you. So I'm gonna
Mhm.
let you go ahead and do a little backdrop about yourself. So you can go ahead and introduce yourself completely.
Okay. As Sheena said, I'm Monique Clark Jones. I am the owner of Lioness Defense Firearms Training. Um, I spent 20 years in the Marine Corps. I joined when I was 19. I retired last year in July. Um, while I was in the Marine Corps, I was in the logistics field. However, I had collateral billet as a combat marksmanship instructor. I started doing that about my second, third year in the Marine Corps. So I've been doing it for a while now. I am married. I have a wife, four children, two girls, two boys, and my four-legged baby Lily. Um, but to double back, yeah, I just retired from the Marine Corps. I started Lioness Defense while I was active duty during COVID in 2020. Like most people started some of their businesses when we got
Yes.
quarantined 18,000 times, right? But
Mm-hmm.
that was kind of my retreat. I was able to go to the range because it was outdoors.
Mm-hmm.
So I went with my friends, family, brought my kids, and that's really how Lioness Defense came about. Um, the name came about because I was with the female engagement team, the Lioness team, um, while I was in Iraq. So that's where the name came from. But yeah, that's a little about me. I work for the U.S. Marshals Service now as a curriculum developer. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that sounds like a pretty cool job just to know, all these things before we know these things.
Listen, it helps.
I bet. So I want to say that, I mean, honestly, you guys, first of all, may have seen Monique on some of the other videos because she's always out here supporting and helping with that and being a part of the YouTube channel Shoot This All Together. So she's an
Mhm.
awesome instructor, as you guys have seen some of her skills on set with that. When it comes to this, though, I know that you had to start somewhere with firearms, and so you got to this point here where now you have all these things under your belt. The Lioness
Mhm.
division and then Marine, and then you started your own company, and now the vision is slightly different than probably the path that you started with firearms. But all the
Mhm.
while you're doing these things, these transitions with the use of firearms and the way that the firearms are being used, and you're doing this while being a mom. So,
Mhm.
is there any things that you noticed when you started out being a mom and dealing with firearms that it was a clash somewhere? Did you find some sort of clashes that happened?
Initially, no, because whenever I went to the range, if it wasn't a class, I brought my kids. You know, family that shoots together stays together, I guess, right?
Yes,
So,
facts.
um, I would say my downtime, if we weren't doing other things, because the boys were in all types of sports. They were in gymnastics, martial arts, football, softball, soccer. Like 6 days a week, I was in something with them. But I on the weeks that I did teach classes, if they weren't sitting in class with me learning, they were with a friend.
Mhm.
Or if we didn't have anything, I would take them to the range. So, and initially there wasn't really a clash. I would say there are clashes now because I do host classes almost every week, if not every other week.
Mhm.
Um, in the evenings, I do online, so it has become a clash. It's hard, especially with the boys doing track and football. So I either have to rearrange or I can't be there. So it's
Right.
actually worse now that they're older than it was
Mhm.
ever as they were young, because I wasn't so heavily into it. Because I obviously, if I'm not available, they can't go, but they can now. But I still feel like I miss out on some things. I always try to make sure that I arrange so that I can be there, but it's a little
Mhm.
tougher now. So
And that makes a lot of sense. I mean,
yeah.
being a mom is like first priority, but you got to pay the bills all at the same time. And
Mhm.
then for you in a unique situation where you're an entrepreneur, you have to go ahead and build this thing. So hopefully, maybe your kids will want to take over one day.
That's
Hopefully,
the
that's the
intent.
plan.
That's the plan.
So it gotta thrive. Until then, you gotta keep it moving. So there's a
Mhm.
certain delicate balance that is challenging, and I find myself in that same boat many times. Having the same challenges. It's like making sure that I'm here for this and here for that, but then I also leave time to do this and that. It's
Yeah.
not enough time in a day.
You're preaching to the choir because girl,
It's
it's a
definitely
lot.
not.
It's a
Yes.
lot.
So I know better late than never, but T Jones,
Hmm.
I see you. Hey, hey, hey. Thank you so much for joining. Hopefully you still here and see our response as you wanted a response here, I see. So when it comes to this whole thing though, dealing with guns, it's a unique thing compared to the rest of the world. It's
Yeah.
so many times before we encounter people, I know for myself, I encounter people who don't deal with guns and find it such a taboo to even touch
Hmm.
it. Um,
Yeah.
when you're raising your kids and you're teaching them about firearm awareness and safety, what are some key things that you have brought your kids up with? Because just thinking about that interaction with them at school or on the football field and things like
Hmm.
that, like they're going to come into some situations. And how
Yeah.
do you teach your kids about gun safety?
So initially, when I started teaching the boys about guns, I made sure they knew what they were supposed to do if they ever came across it, not while they weren't with me. So they know, stop, don't touch it, go and get an adult, right?
Hmm.
So they knew if they ever come across it in a friend's house or what have you, it is not a toy. They know that is inherently dangerous and it's not to be messed with, right? So they knew. And when I started teaching them, I made sure they knew all the safety rules and how to load and unload the gun prior to us even going on the range. So I had them tell me the range safety rules. And then even when they play, right, they play with water guns and all this stuff, they knew how to manipulate the firearm or the water gun, right,
Hmm.
in the proper way. Because my thing is, if we are going to instill proper fundamentals, we even if it's not a real gun, it still needs to be treated that way, right? So
Right.
they knew from the time that we started teaching them how to manage a firearm. And they had to show me that they were responsible prior to. So I was able to take my eldest out a lot faster than my younger one because you gotta know your kids, right? You gotta know your kids.
Yes.
Um, so I started my older one at 8. I started my younger one at 9 because he needed a little bit more time.
Hmm.
Um, so, making sure they know the safety rules, making sure they know the proper handling, because as they're loading the firearm, I'm watching them and their muzzle awareness and where their finger is and all the other things that they know that they're supposed to do while they have the firearm in their hand. So I feel like one, taking away the shiny new toy is a big thing, right? Especially with me having firearms in my house all the time. Yes, they're secured, but little fingers get into a lot of things, right? So
That's the
they knew
facts.
they know mommy has a gun. They know how to handle the gun. So they know what to do with the gun, what not to do if they see a gun. So taking away that want to touch something that is unfamiliar or
Mhm.
wanting to come across, try to sneak and say, because mommy said not to touch this, I'm gonna go touch it because that's what kids do.
Yeah.
So taking that away from them in the beginning is vital. And then letting them know, hey, this is what you're supposed to do if you come across a firearm, right?
Mm-hmm.
Educating them, not trying to make it sound like this, oh, that's bad, you can't do that. Yeah, it's bad if they come across it, but do they know what to do if they do come across it? Because you're not giving them
Exactly.
any direction, you know? So that was my take on it.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I have the same approach with the whole taking away the curiosity. Always,
Mhm.
my one of my little brothers, I always say he's basically my first child, me and my husband's first child, because we literally started dating when he was born. And
Mhm.
we took him on dates, and I'm telling you, in the middle of the night, I was there if he was crying before my mom got there. So she would have to send me back to bed and say, go to
Mhm.
bed so you can go to school. But he literally was like my first child. And I always, expressed to him, because I noticed at a young age, around that 9 and 10 years old age, that he was really interested in guns. He
Mhm.
loved playing video games. It was about shooting. He loved, the rap music, da da da. People, if he sees a gun, he gets so excited about it. So what we did was we actually had him come when he was about 13ish. He came and worked for with my company, like
Mhm.
literally, with Trouble Defense, helping us with classes and things like that. Any way that we could have fit him in there so he can be around it and learning. My thought process was I was in fear of that he would make go to, I don't know, to the playground or some kind of hangout spot with him and his friends, and maybe they might found a gun in the bush somewhere. And in my mind, I'm thinking if he sees it because he's so interested in it, that he might actually want to actually pick it up and try to use it,
Right.
because he was one of those kids that felt like he knew it all in the first place. So,
Right.
and so I was like, nah, you need to know a whole bunch of stuff. Like, you need to understand what's the consequences of it. You don't put your fingerprints on this gun. What's
Right.
going to happen after that? Because they're not going to believe what you're saying. You're going to have evidence to go along with what you're saying. So,
Right.
and those were things I was trying to instill in him at 13, because I saw that interest in firearms, but I didn't want him to get into the negative, I want to be a thug thought process of them with firearms.
Right.
Um, so let me just check and see what DMV Renovation said. Do we want our
Right.
kids touching other guns? Definitely not.
No. No. And that's
Definitely not.
why, I mentioned, if you are at someone else's house or you're at a friend's house and you see a firearm, you don't touch it. You go tell an adult. You're like, stop, don't touch, get an adult. Those are the steps. Stop, don't touch, get an adult, right? No,
Hmm.
we don't want them to touch it. All right, even with the training. So part of that training also includes understanding that if you are not with a adult that has consented for you to put the firearm in your hand, you are not to touch it, right?
Exactly.
So they understand, like, if they're not with me, they are not to handle firearms in any way, shape, or form, right? That is
Hmm.
something that they have to be smart about. Smart firearm. My oldest is 16 and the other one is 15, and they know better. They absolutely know better, and they know if they have friends come over, they are locking the basement and they are locking the garage, and their friends are not allowed in any one of those areas, right? So
Hmm.
even though our firearms are secured, they still know your friends are not allowed here and they're not allowed here. Um,
Hmm.
but
That's
you also have
major
to know your
DMV
kid.
renovations. Hmm.
Yeah, you have to know your kid, right?
Hmm.
Full transparency. When my oldest was, I'll say 11, 12, that was me, right? That was me. You have to know your child,
Yeah, you
whether
do.
it's because you feel like they have maybe mental health issues or they have a propensity for violence, whatever it is, you have to be honest with yourself as a parent. And it's great that you don't trust, for whatever reason that you don't trust him, you understand that he is not to be trusted around guns. You have to be mature enough as a parent and transparent enough as a parent to make that decision.
Hmm. Michael,
They
that's a
do.
good point too. I mean,
They do.
I do believe that I know my children well, Michael.
Hmm.
To answer that concern there. I mean, but
Right.
kids are just like anybody else. We have free choice of will. We can raise them to do this and do that, or don't do this and don't do that, and they have their choice to make their own decisions. So, but I do feel like I know my children well enough that whatever decision they do make in life is not going to be a big surprise.
Right.
I'm not going to
Right.
be surprised. It's not going to be a total shock. Oh, I can't believe. I feel like I know them well enough that that's not going to be the case. And if that's the case, Michael, for you, I would say spend more time with your kid. Find some things that you find a common interest. I mean, even if it is taking them to the range and you guys go shooting together and that's your bonding time, things like that. You need to spend some more time with them. And then you might feel DMV renovations that you can trust them a little bit too if you start to educate them. Maybe you won't put a gun in their hand during DMV renovations. Maybe instead you guys will start taking some classes together or something like that, where it's classroom time about firearms and maybe going more into this the at 16, they need to know the consequences because they can be charged as an adult. And that's the
Absolutely.
conversation you need to be having with them. And especially
Definitely.
if they're a person of color. If they're a
Yeah,
young
I've
man
definitely had that
of
conversation.
color, they especially need to understand they could be charged as an adult, and 9 times out of 10, they will when it comes to firearms. Because they don't
Yeah.
play. They don't play. The law does not play about firearms. And that's something that your son needs to have that conversation now on daily renovations. Don't wait on it.
Yeah.
Definitely don't wait.
I mean, we expose our children to a lot of things that can backfire.
Mhm.
And I'm not being facetious. I'm saying even with cars, you teach your kid how to drive. You don't know if your kid's going to go and plow across a bunch of people and, hit them because they get angry. You don't know if your kid has
Mhm.
road rage. A lot of things that we do can backfire in any facet. It's the
Mhm.
education, it's making sure your child is educated on emotional intelligence, how to temper their anger, how to make proper decisions. There's things that we can put in place as parents to ensure that we give them the tools to make the right decision. Can it backfire, or can they still not make the right decision? Yes, kids do it every day.
Mhm.
I teach my kids to make their bed every morning. Do you think they do it? No. Right, they still don't do it.
That's the
They've been making
facts.
their bed. They regress, right? They've been making their
Mhm.
bed since they were old enough to fold corners, and now all of a sudden they don't know what a made bed looks like, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's it is the nature of children, teenagers, us as human beings. Anything that we show them, they can turn around and use in a nefarious way.
You know what's
You
so
know,
crazy is you can just educate your kid just on general life, and then it backfires on you because now you got a little smart mouth little kid that is witty as all heck that want to talk and say some stuff. Man,
my
so talk.
my 16-year-old right now, ready to put him through some drywall. I tell you.
I hear you on that. I mean, honestly, though, Michael, yeah, to your point, though, exposing them around guns can backfire, and you make a valid point with that.
Mhm.
It is more so about the fact of we have to be honest with ourselves as far as
Yeah.
understanding what our limitations are. So I experienced something not too long ago where I came across something where there was like a mental health concern. And, just in general, speaking to someone. And I had to explain to them, hey, look, I know I'm a, nice person to talk to from here to here, but I have to be honest. This is my limit here. I don't know what to tell you. You're going to have to go to a specialist because that specialize in speaking to someone about these things because I don't want to tell you wrong and damage you. And it's the same thought process with child rearing. I feel like as adults, as parents, we need to understand our limitations. We don't know everything. So therefore, we may have to consult knowledgeable, educated people about firearms in order to help our children and ourselves. So that's the hence the idea I'm explaining about maybe getting with the local range or a training company and do some training courses with them. If you're in the DMV area, you can reach out to Lioness Defense. You can reach out to Trouble Defense, and maybe there's some training we can do with you and your sons or your kids. And that might be something that you guys can bond with, but it's also something that's going to help both of you guys excel in your knowledge of firearm awareness. Again, I can't stress enough how important it is that piece of not just knowing how to use the gun, but knowing when and when not to use it and how to keep you out of jail because there's so many laws surrounding the fact of even having it in your possession, not even using it yet.
Right.
So those are some things that I would encourage everybody to go out there and do, honestly.
Right. And shameless plug, but it's for a purpose. I
Yes.
have a children's safety class coming up in August. I think it's either July or August.
Mm-hmm.
A kids zone safety 101. It's for the younger ones, but I do, if I, train one on one with a teenager, I do speak to them prior to me putting a firearm in their hand. Pretty
Mm-hmm.
much going through what consequences are, how, the inherent danger of a firearm as a tool, but it's also good for other things, and that there are consequences behind misuse, right? So no matter how old they are, there is a foundation of information that they need to receive and absorb prior to them using a firearm, even if it's not for use, but just for educational purposes, that if they come
Mm-hmm.
across one, they don't do something that they're not supposed to do.
Yeah. One of the things I love to talk to kids about before doing training with them is explain that I'm taking you here today because your parents are here with you and they said it's okay for you to do this here today
Right.
with us. Okay. But when we're not with you and you're at a friend's house and your friend's parent has a firearm, it's not okay for you to go there with your friend and teach them this, that, and teach them this, that. No, you're not the professional here, and you have to understand that there's a whole lot of other things that I've done to get here at this moment to be able to help you with this. So while you may think that I make this look easy being your instructor and all, trust me, it's a whole lot more dangerous when you're trying to be the instructor and not having the skill and the knowledge behind it to be able to help someone else. So I always make sure I leave my teenagers with that because already in the back of their mind they think they know everything because they're a teenager, period. Um,
Hmm.
but then you go ahead and give them all the kudos and the high fives and the fist bumps about how well they shot today, and you building that ego and that confidence about their abilities. They might
Hmm.
take it out there and try to teach someone else. So that's the message I always leave them with. It's really important to me to leave them with that message. Let's
Drew said
see.
I'm over 50 and my kids kept a 22 long rifle in their closet. I trained them well and they had the mental capacity to do so, right? Like we said, you also have to know your kid, right?
Yes, you
You
definitely
had
do.
you had faith and confidence in your kid to know that they are not going to do anything crazy, but in the event that they need to protect themselves, because I'm assuming that's why they had it,
Hmm.
right? That they would be able to use it.
And Drew, different time. These
And it's a
kids
different
different.
time. Yeah,
Yep,
these kids
these kids
feel
are
real different.
different. They're real different. Honestly, I mean, even like oh, speaking to one of the head security persons, I actually have a live about this. I can't remember what his title, but if you guys can find it, you might want to take a look at it if you have
Was
kids.
it that
I
young
spoke
lady?
to yeah, it was a manager that was a lady who
Yeah.
was a head of security team. And she was expressing to us the concerns they have in DC schools, specifically that area, okay,
Hmm.
safety wise dealing with kids. And she was telling me some of the things that take place. And I was just like, what? You say what?
Hmm.
Like how how intelligent and stupid these kids are at the same time. It's ridiculous. Oh, because I would have never thought, oh, I want to have some edibles in school, some edible gummies. So I'm going to put the edible gummies in a regular package that's some gummies, some regular gummies, and then reseal it. How? I would have never thought to reseal it.
Right.
Honestly, these kids are too smart.
They
Too
are. They too
smart.
smart for their own good.
Yes. But just thinking about something like that, thinking about what Drew was saying, I can't even imagine a kid this day being raised the way that Drew raised his
Back then.
kids. Honestly.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Mm-mm. Back then, it might have been fine. People had a whole different mindset. Now,
Yeah.
you're talking about specifically in a city area, specifically DC, they don't even have the decency to wait till nighttime to go and, use a firearm on someone. No, it's broad daylight.
Broad daylight.
Just just willy-nilly. Like, I mean, honestly, I was talking
Mhm.
to a guy the other day who said he had was driving down the street in a DC area and a shooting had happened at a bus stop right where he was at a bus stop. And he was like had to just like duck and try to get out the way or whatever. It was nothing he was in his car, but he was at a light.
Oh,
And it's like wow, they couldn't even wait
That's
till it
crazy.
got dark? Like nothing? Just no,
They don't care.
no.
They don't care. They don't care.
No, they have no
There's
morals these days. There's no street
complete
code.
disregard. Complete
Yes.
disregard for human life.
Yes. So things are just a little bit different when we're thinking about it from that perspective. And this is all the more reason why I press for education in the school systems at home about firearm safety. And unfortunately, guns are so taboo that the school systems don't even want to touch it. They don't want
Right.
us teaching their kids about guns or
At all.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it's sad because I feel like it will save so many lives. I know one of the classes that I remember as a kid, and I don't know if you had a similar experience or not, Monique, but I had a really unique experience with one of I was in middle school and my homeroom teacher, who also was my science teacher, Mr. Wright, I'll never forget him. His wife, she had her own business where she went around and taught sex education. Okay. So I remember, I think I was in seventh grade or something like that. And she came and she taught sex education to our class. And the way she did it though, I was like, don't nobody better look at me. I don't want none of that nasty, stinking, smelling stuff. Uh-uh. She showed us all the STDs, what it looked like.
Oh
She talked
boy.
to us about how it smelled, and I was done. I was like, mm-mm, I don't want a kiss. I don't want nothing. Y'all better stay over there.
She's still teaching. She need to be in these schools now.
I wish she would. I don't know. I have no idea. But honestly, that type of education was very beneficial to me because let me tell you, my female friends was the main ones at that age around 13 telling me how good sex feel and how much they liked it with their boyfriend and this, that, and the other. Straight lies, because let me tell you, my mama came and told me, hey, you do know it hurts the first time, right? And I was like, what? Say what? Definitely kept me away from having sex for a very long time. I didn't even need birth control. Didn't need it because that was it. That class really opened up
Did
my
it for you?
eyes.
Yeah.
Yes, it did it for me because it was just like, I don't want none of that stinking stuff over here and hurting. And oh man, yeah, she definitely painted a very vivid picture that kept me away from that for a very long time.
Yeah. So hi JR or Junior. Um,
How you doing? Hey, hey, hey.
do you think
Okay,
girls
so
should
he
train
said,
defense?
this is
Absolutely.
fun. Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna offend some guys right now, but girls are easier to train.
Yes, much easier to train.
Much easier to train.
Yes. So typically with guys, and it actually doesn't even matter what age. I'm talking about like 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. It don't matter what age. Typically there's a certain ego level. They got to show off in front of the female that's here. They got to be Mr. Know It All. A lot of times that
Mhm.
goes into play with the fact that they don't listen.
And it's a
So,
mature. I for me it was a maturity thing.
yes.
Um, the boy, like I said, the boys were 8 and 9.
Hmm.
My goddaughters were 5.
Hmm.
So I would have never with the boys at 5. But the
Yeah.
girls were receptive. They listened. They sat. They loaded one at a time, bolt action, one boom. They did it. And I don't think I would have gotten through the first round. And I would have been like, yeah, we're good. We're going home with the
Hmm.
boys, you know? Um,
Yeah.
Girls, I will say, they're more prone to listening. They're very receptive. Sheena said sometimes boys don't quite listen. They like to goof off at that age. And it's not all boys by any means. But again, you need to know your kid and if their maturity level is suitable for you training them and at what age you think is suitable to do that. But absolutely, girls can train, boys can train. Doesn't matter what your gender is.
No,
With
no, not at
it's
all.
really just a matter of the maturity of your child and whether they can receive that information, retain it, and then put it into practice.
What I'm going to pinpoint for you guys now, I want Monique to also answer in a few as well. What are some triggers, I guess I would say, key things that you may notice about your kid to say, okay, maybe they're not ready for me to do this with them yet? I'm just going to share a little story while I ask you this question and you think about your answer. I had a student who, the sister, who's an adult, had signed her and her son up. She had custody of her son. I'm sorry, not her son, her brother. She had custody of her little brother, who was about maybe 15-ish. Um, and she signed up for a basic pistol class, so classroom time and range time. And by the time we got to doing the range time, the sister decided not to bring him because she had decided that he wasn't mature enough. He said some
Yeah.
things, he did some things, and she didn't like the way he wasn't really um, paying as much attention to the classroom time as she expected or wanted him to, and he was very fidgety and couldn't sit still, and it was a 2-hour class and he's 15. So the expectation is that you should be able to sit through a 2-hour class.
Right.
So she was just like, I just don't think he's ready. So, and I was like, I appreciate you saying that, because honestly I was coming here today with this on my mind and wanted to fully observe him in person
Mhm.
to see, at the range, to see how his behavior evolved being in this setting and having those conversations with them. But she saved me the trouble, the hassle, as we already mentioned before, knowing your kid.
Mhm.
So for you, Monique, what are some triggers or some things, some signs to say, okay, maybe this kid's not ready yet?
Kind of similar to you, I look for, can they how long they can pay attention? Are they goofing off? Um, are they following directions? Standard things that I will look for in an adult. But funny
Mhm.
enough, I've never had to stop a kid. I've had to stop an adult.
And that's the facts.
Not once. Not
That's the
once have I had to
facts.
stop a child, but I've had to
Yeah.
stop an adult male. And I was
Yes.
like, yeah, you're no, you cannot
Mm-hmm.
continue to train with me,
Yeah.
because a lot of it's about mindset too, right? You have to
Mm-hmm.
have the mindset, and JR, the answer is yes. You have to have the mindset as well. I do not, what I don't subscribe to is coming into a training environment with this idea that, oh yeah, when I learn, I wish somebody would. I cannot allow that on my
Mm-mm.
range. That's not, that is not how I conduct business. That's not
No.
how I teach my students to, that's not a mindset I subscribe to for my students, right? We teach guns as a last resort, firearms as a last resort, where you have no other way out, and as the last thing you have to essentially preserve your life, right? We're
Exactly.
not out here feeling like, oh, as soon as I learn how to shoot, I'm gonna go ahead and make sure nobody messes with me. That means you are having the intent of looking for trouble. When I get the idea that you are looking for trouble because now you have the skill to do what you need to do, we're not training you. We're not training you. So um the same thing I look for kids, the same thing I look for adults is the mindset. Are you here to learn? Are you paying attention? Are you receiving the information? Are you doing what I'm telling you? You start
Mm-hmm.
goofing off on the range, you turning this into a fashion show. Mm-mm. No.
I've actually, I agree with you at first about the never having to stop a kid before, but I have. Now that I think about it, I had one kid that it was a family. It was like a mom and dad, and I think it was one kid. I think yeah, it was mom and dad and one kid, and they just, they hired me to come out and have some fun at the range. That was the intent, of course.
Mhm.
Well, the kid was having a little bit too much fun, and I, had warned him already one time before, and two is too many for me in that setting.
Yep.
So I explained, no goofing off basically, and he was just too pumped, too sice, too excited, and he was being too loosey with the gun.
Loose.
And
Yeah.
so I was like, snatch, just snatched the gun right out of his hand and politely turned to his parents and said, I think we're done here. I think he needs to just observe from here on out. Like, this is where we are with him. And the parents looked at me and they said, okay, respectfully, we understand. So the parents kept shooting for that amount of time. And his son, he wasn't able to shoot anymore. But I think we
Mhm.
might have only shot like 2 rounds. And that was it. He
That
was
was it.
just,
Yeah.
yeah. And it was it. And it was nothing he can say because he knew he was doing too much. And I expressed to him beforehand, like, we cannot play with this. Because I seen he was a very happy kid, excited, everything we want for our kids in the first place. He was a happy kid.
Mhm.
But it's just,
Good. No refund.
No refund.
No,
That's right. No,
none.
no, none. And so, respectfully, I think he understood though, because I tried to get my point across in a nice way. But, I told him, just let me grow up a little bit more, and, this don't have to be the last time we meet. I might be able to help you out just a couple of years from now. Grow up a little bit more, get a little bit more mature first. And maybe we
Yeah,
can start out in the class first so we can really get some time in there for you to really understand some things, ground rules well before we start taking it to this step.
right.
Yeah. And so they were understandable. They were
Hmm.
understanding on that. So yeah, when it comes to this whole thing of firearm use with children, it is somewhat of a delicate thing though, because we have to have that certain balance. I mean, but as Monique already pointed out, you guys, it's technically almost all the same. The real difference is stressing certain things, such as the when is it appropriate to use it? Because a kid doesn't, the law is not written for children, the law is written for
Hmm.
adults. And when it comes to these things, so the kids aren't thinking about the consequences, they're thinking about the immediate satisfaction to whatever their purpose is at that time,
Hmm.
and whether it is to control their emotions, which they're lacking of because that's why they resort into a firearm, or
Hmm.
whether it is literally to pick it up to defend themselves or show it off because they want to show it off to their friends. Okay, hey, let me take this gun to school with me or on a play date with me so I can be able to show you this cool thing I learned how to use, or I know what to do with this because I saw this on Call of Duty, you know.
Right,
So
right,
it's it's all types of little thought processes that kids might have. So that's the only part that's really somewhat more unique than it is with an adult. An adult will already have some thought process of these things will be a no-no, you know. And it's
right,
more so because adults have consequences such as the law. Whereas kids, they got mommy and daddy. And if mommy and daddy is not so stern in certain things, they might not be so fearful of that.
right. And also express to them they are subject to legal implications. They're
They are.
going to jail. You're probably going to jail as their parent too. So
Exactly.
you got to remember the case.
Yeah, remember the case young dude shot a guy at the
Mm,
Chinese spot for acting
attacking
attacking
his
his
mom.
mom.
I don't know.
Oh yes,
I
I
think I'm
do.
familiar with that.
Yes, I do remember that case. He was arrested,
Mm,
and they were trying to charge him. I think he was 16. They was trying to charge him. Basically, let me back it up a bit. They were, like you said, at the Chinese restaurant, and the mom and a guy had gotten some sort of altercation. So
mm,
the son knew where the mom kept the gun at in the car. So he went
mm,
out to the car and he got the gun. And the man at this point is actually fighting his mom. So he
mm.
shoots the guy. Um, the case got overturned, thank God. The judge had deemed it to be self-defense because the boy was trying to defend his mom. This man
Right,
was literally fighting his mom at this time.
right.
So but he was arrested and they were trying to charge him as an adult, and I believe he was 16. But yeah, and that was, and the mom too. They let both of them go. The judge acquitted like let everything go.
She was being attacked, and there was a gender disparity. I mean,
Yep.
what kind of like with the 6-year-old little girl with the cop and her mom.
Yep, yep, yep. That situation. So if you guys aren't familiar with that situation that happened, even more recent than that situation what was it, just last year, I
It
think.
was last year. Yeah.
Yeah, just last year, the mom was at a Walmart and the little girl with her 6-year-old, and they're shopping in a Walmart. They buy a TV and they're trying to leave out, but somebody's claiming that they don't have a receipt or something. Or she lost a receipt.
Yeah.
Then they
She
needed
they
to
said she
check.
stole it.
Yeah, they claim she
Hmm.
stole it. So they called the police, and she even had flagged down the person who checked her out at the register. And that person
Hmm.
did tell the manager, yes, she just bought it with me. And so, but for whatever reason, this manager keeps claiming that she's stealing it. So called the police. The police quickly came to the scene and was aggressive. This police officer came on the scene very aggressive. So at this point, the customer who has bought the TV is trying to get her TV inside the car. She flagged down somebody who was in the parking lot to help her with that, while the 6-year-old is in her car seat. And well, things get pretty aggressive with the police. The police is being aggressive with the mom, and the little girl seen that the police officer was reaching for her gun. towards her mom, and so she grabbed her mom's gun and shot the police
Yeah.
officer square in the head.
Yeah. At that
Yeah,
point, her mom was already unconscious because the cop was choking her.
exactly. Yeah,
So
that part.
yeah, it was a
Yeah,
lot. That yeah.
it was a lot. So honestly, for the person who made the comment about, teaching your kids about using guns could actually backfire, but in cases like this, it was actually beneficial. These kids, specifically these two cases, I know for a fact the moms already said that they did teach their kids about firearm safety. They did teach their
Mhm.
kids how to use the gun. So these two kids did know how. Um, they were taught by their parents.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where it could be something that could backfire, but it could also be something that saves your life.
She did
No,
not.
no, she did not. No, the judge dropped off all charges for both of them.
Yep.
Yeah, because it was clearly self defense, definitely. So oh my gosh. And it was just crazy with both of those situations. I just pray that none of you guys are ever in those type of things. She should
Hmm.
have stayed in her child's place. I'm sorry. Oh, I hear you, Drew.
Hmm.
I hear you. Well, Drew, the little girl you're speaking of, the 6-year old, the police, it was a woman cop and her mom. The police officer was extremely aggressive, and she has already previous reports of her being aggressive on the scene with people. So this is something that was a pattern for this police officer. And at the time, just similarly to the George Floyd situation, she also was like the mom was unconscious because the police put her in some sort of chokehold type situation. And so the
Hmm.
mom was actually unconscious at this particular time. And that's why the little girl acted out of self defense towards her mom. In her eyes, you just killed my mother. So,
Yeah. And I understand what you're saying, Drew. Like
yeah,
I get what you're saying. Um,
that was
she
my
does have
first
to
thought
deal with
too.
it, and we
Hmm.
spoke about this before on the last one of the previous lives that it should be a staunch priority for mom to get that baby some counseling, right?
Exactly.
She's gonna need therapy. She's gonna need therapy for a very long time,
Hmm.
but
She would have needed therapy anyway.
she it, she would have, but
Yeah,
her taking a
regardless
life
of
is
what the,
definitely going to be
yeah.
impactful. But she's going to
Hmm.
need therapy. She would, like you said, she would need therapy anyway, but she's going to have to need some deep-seated therapy for that one. But
Yeah.
it's important for the mom to follow up on that. Because for any reason a child has to protect their parent for whatever reason, they're going to need therapy for that. There's
Yeah.
always going to be some kind of post traumatic stress in a violent encounter with anybody, whether it's a police officer or another civilian.
Hmm. That's the facts. I mean, honestly, I just feel like the little girl, I don't know whether the option she would have been left with at the time, if, just trying to put myself in her place to know that my mom taught me this is what we use this gun for. If that's what her mom taught her, we use this gun for self-defense, and it's the least option, it's the last option. And here it is, the mom is unconscious because of a scuffle that's happening. That was her training, is what I would have think happened with the little girl. That, in her mind, this was my training and this is what I was taught to do, and this is the right time to use it. This is what it's for. So yeah, I don't know though.
I understand where Drew is coming from. I don't know if I would have personally wanted my child to do that, but I did train my children to do that. So it,
Yeah,
it's a double
it's a
edged
tough
sword.
call. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a tough call, honestly. And I mean, to you guys' point that they would need therapy, they would totally need therapy.
yeah,
Um, anybody needs therapy after that, period, regardless of the age. I just
yeah.
I already see how that would have went though, had the little girl not acted and her mom didn't wake up from the unconsciousness. Like what would have been going through her mind later on in life about her not doing something that she could have
No
done
one
to help.
helped. People
Yeah,
stopped and first of all,
no,
people stood around and watched and videoed clearly. Um, and this is part of our training too, right?
yeah,
Our we tell people don't try to be Superman or a superhero
exactly.
and get yourself hurt in the process, whether it was a cop or a civilian. Most people will not get involved with a cop scuffling with a civilian. Not happening.
Mhm.
So I tell my students, if it's something where you can possibly yourself get hurt, killed, or injured, be the best witness you can be. Get all the information you need to get so that you can go ahead and provide that when it's needed. Um, but it really depends on that individual. That is a conscious choice that you have to make to involve yourself in that situation, which could have got anybody else that was in that parking lot shot. Because if you
Right.
are scuffling with somebody and you roll up on a cop, they're probably going to shoot you. It's There's really no two ways about that. So um I would have hoped someone helped too, but in today's age, it's probably not happening.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm. Both
Yes,
situations we talked about, they were
they were
black
both. Yeah.
kids. Yeah. Yeah, it's I'm just glad that the law actually supported them in that
Yeah.
decision, which is not keeping them in jail over that situation. And man, it's like you said, the mental health piece. I just can't
Yeah.
even imagine what that kid has to go through. Both of those kids have to go
Hmm.
through going forward. Um,
Right.
and maybe the 6-year-old is lucky enough to be six, and there's a possibility they may or may not remember the full detail.
Right.
Possibly. I mean, it's traumatic
Possibly.
though, so it's more likely that they would, but they're right on
Right.
that line. Whereas, I mean, think about it, as an adult, how much do you remember of being six? Probably bits and pieces, but not,
Bits and pieces. Yeah.
yeah. So hopefully that might play in their part, that it doesn't affect them negatively remembering this emotion,
Mhm.
this situation.
But even if they don't remember it, it's gonna follow them in the news because
Oh yeah.
you
Oh
know
yeah. Mm-hmm.
everything on social media is for life. Oh,
Forever. Yes.
you pull up her name, and I promise you, it's gonna be plastered everywhere if a student looks her up because people like to Google themselves, right? And
Mhm.
Google other people. um, So I would hope, like you said, I would hope that we can only hope that she only remembers remnants of that day. But
Okay.
it's gonna get brought up. It's gonna be in the news. People gonna hear her name and they're gonna be like, "Oh, I know you." Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. So I have a little segment that I want to do that's new. And it's just called a little rapid fire fun. Okay. And so what this is, little rapid fire fun, is just three little innocent questions that I would love for you to answer. Okay.
I
As
don't like
fast
those
as you
air
can.
quotes. I don't like those air quotes.
As fast as you can. Just a rapid
Mhm.
answer for these questions. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So question number one is, what's one thing in your bag that you carry on a daily basis that can save the day? Mommy style or tactical? Either
A
one.
tourniquet.
Tourniquet. Okay, okay, okay. What's your I'm not the one energy song or mantra before stepping into the range or into a challenge?
Oh man.
Okay,
I usually blast reggae all the way to the range. I'm bopping in the car. Like
okay. All right. What's the one lesson you hope your kids learn from watching you train or carry?
I hope they take from me my passion for what I do. Um, and while I am passionate about it, I'm more passionate about the livelihood of others. I
Mhm.
always, always, always err on the side of my morals, and they know that. Um, yes, I am an avid 2A supporter. Yes, I love guns. Yes, I love to shoot. Yes, I'm a training junkie. And if it's a gun, if it's anything dealing with firearms, I'm about it. But they also know that I value life. I value safety. I value, other people's personal opinions and how they feel about things. And you are never to force your values on other people, because not
Mhm.
everybody that's come to my classes actually want to deal with firearms. They want the education, but they
Yeah,
don't want to deal with the firearms. And you have other options. And they always, I always talk to them, hey, you don't have to have a firearm. There's other options, so respect the way I
yeah.
respect my students in light of my business, you know. So
That's a good piece. I hope you guys take that too, because that's definitely a good thing to keep and, share that with your kids. That's important for them to know that piece of it, that part, honestly. Because at the end of the day, as we always teach in our classes, guns are the final result. They're not the first solution to a problem. It's the last thing that you try to use in a self-defense situation. And it's really, at the end of the day, respecting the fact that you're respecting life, you're valuing others' lives, not just your own. So it's one of those things. And I see Julia King said they're not like us. That's the song. His or her mantra song.
Hmm.
I don't even know if I have one. Honestly, I love music so much. I'm just always listening to everything.
Same,
Yeah,
same.
yeah,
There's
but yeah.
a song. It's a reggae song. It's yeah. It's called "I Love My Life." I'm trying to remember the artist. It was just escaping me right now. But it's a
Mhm.
very calm kind of flowy, and I used to play it every morning before I got up in the morning. I haven't done it in a couple of months, but I used to play it every morning. Be like, Alexa, play "I Love My Life," and then I'd go on about my morning. You know.
Honestly, when it comes to that, like the song that I felt like I cut on the most
I'm not talking to
was
you, Alexa.
I think the song that I used the most for that same thought process was Moment for Life, Nicki Minaj.
Okay.
I needed
Okay.
that pump up energy to be like, okay, this is my moment, this is my day, this is
Hmm.
I'm owning it. This is my stuff today. Ain't nobody messing with my
Right.
day. It's blessed.
He said, "Get it on the floor."
Oh, I hear you, I hear you.
And renegade. Okay. Listen,
Yeah.
you
These
have
days it's
gotta
more
have that
like
head bopper in.
yes. These days my song that I play a lot on that same spectrum though for me is Damian Marley and Kid is I'm blessed. I love that
I have that
song.
one on repeat, and my youngest, he loves that
Yes.
song.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that song I vibe with so much. It's like the perfect like melody. I could dance with
Mhm.
it too, but it's also just reminding you that, you're blessed and,
Yes.
might be rough around the edges, but I'm blessed. Like I love that.
Yes.
I just think it's
Listen,
great.
I am breathing. I woke up this morning. I got a
Yes.
job. We're
Exactly,
good.
exactly. Life is great. No matter whatever
Mhm.
else is going on, life is great, honestly. And that's one of the things that I always try to carry with me because, even I shared with you before we started that, I was literally on the side of the road earlier this week with my car
Yeah.
breaking down. And that was one of those moments where I was like, you know what? Mrs. Trouble, you're blessed. It's all right. It's okay. Some things just happen. And we just gotta pivot. We gotta go with it. And that was one of those moments for me. Like I can't freak out. I'm on the side of the highway,
Mhm.
19% on my phone. So my phone is about to die and I don't have a charger because I just got a new phone and I don't have this charger for it in my car. And
Mhm.
then when it, came down to it, it's getting to be nighttime and the tow truck it can't get here until 2 hours from now. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm totally not gonna freak out right now, right?
Right.
But oh wow, I see Mike, you said Lincoln Park in the end. Oh, I hear
Mhm.
you. Okay, okay. I could vibe with that too. That was probably something I definitely listened to years ago as well.
Oh, did you?
Yes. I definitely love that song. I do,
Mhm.
honestly. So yeah, Lincoln Park, I can definitely get down with some Lincoln Park. So, leaving you guys today with this message in closing, I want everybody to understand first of all, celebrate those moms out there. They really need the extra love, the extra care that we tend to try to give them around this holiday season. Because throughout the day, throughout the whole rest of the year, what's going to happen is that very same mom is going to pour everything she has into you and she's not going to think about herself. 9 times out of 10, she won't. She probably won't think about herself until you're 20. And so that's the reality of it all. So just thinking about that, I always think about trying to pour into my mom, and you guys need to pour into your moms
Yeah.
and things of that nature because they need to know that they are appreciated. Because how many times do you really get a thank you from your kids from the things that you do? Not too much.
Yeah.
And
Ungrateful little heathens. That's what I call them.
I know, basically. I mean, and even if you do get a thank you here and there, the real appreciation would be, okay, mom, I'm gonna cook for you today. Okay, mom, I'm gonna clean this bathroom without you telling me to do this today. Okay, mom, I'm gonna make up
That
our
would be
bed
nice.
without you telling
Right.
me to do it. As a matter of fact, mom, let me go ahead and vacuum your floor in your room for you.
Mhm.
Oh, let me go ahead and clean your car, mom, without you asking me. These are some I show you my appreciation type of things that a
Mhm.
mom would wish their kid would do, but 9 times out of 10, they're not going to do it. And so that's why times like this needs to be extra special.
Thank you
And
for
don't
real.
worry, guys, you got your month coming up next.
Yes, yes.
Yes,
Who's
I must
high?
be high.
If to think that they would do that, listen,
Exactly,
I
right?
I will give my youngest credit. He's good for it. He was good for it for a long time. I don't know about this
Mhm.
year because they 15 and 16. You already know they don't want nothing to do with me.
Nope,
Um,
nope, nope, nope. Yeah, definitely not. So,
yeah.
Mo, do you have any last words that you want to leave our audience with, in the mindset of being a mom who's a gun holding mom out there?
Listen, we've come a long way as a society. We've come a long way as a gender, and you can do anything you want to do and be a mom. Anything. Time management is the key, and sometimes even that's hard. But if something, especially for single moms, right? You have to protect yourself.
Hmm.
What are your kids going to do without you? Protect yourself. If not for anything, protect your children, right?
Yeah.
And that's my motivation day to day. I need to protect my family. Yes, my boys can shoot, but I am not their responsibility. They are mine,
Hmm.
and it's my job to protect them. And as a woman, you are capable of protecting your family just like a man. You just got to put the work in. So
Yeah.
if that's something you want to do it. And don't let nobody tell you you can't.
I think that was a great final message, and I really hope that someone, that touched someone and they took that in. Because honestly, I really, really I vibe with that. That was a perfect message. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Hmm.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you guys.
yeah, and thank you guys for saying Happy Mother's Day to us. Honestly, I mean, it's just like I said, such a special time, and we cherish, things. Especially for me, I know this year and the last couple of years has been a bit of a challenge to even celebrate Mother's Day since losing my grandmother and my husband's grandmother too. Both our grandmothers passed like really close in timing, and they were the matriarch of our families. So that caused a little different dynamics in our family, and so just trying to put things together. So this year I'm going to try to start a new tradition in their honor. So as soon as I see my mom and my stepmom, I'm sorry, my mother-in-law, I'm going to actually express that to them, start a new tradition in their light and their honor to try to make sure my kids know our grandmothers who are no longer here. I want them to still know that these women existed. These women poured into me. These women are the reason why I am who I am.
Mhm.
Not only is my mom. So those are some things that I want to put into my kids' minds. So we're gonna start some new family traditions this year in light of that. So, but definitely thank you for joining us today. As usual, it's
Of course.
always a pleasure.
Of course, of
Anybody
course.
Anybody who did subscribe while watching this, I appreciate it.
Mhm.
Anybody who has not subscribed yet, please do. And make sure you press the notification bell so that way you can get notification when we do go live. Because if you just press the subscribe button, you still won't know when we go live.
Right.
And yes. And so I do try to make it a point to come live with you guys every Friday at 8 p.m. There's a few times that I might miss here and there, life be lifing. But for the most part, I'm here. And then also, I do a little check in with you guys Wednesdays at 12. And next week, we're going to continue our Mother's Month celebration. So definitely stay tuned. We're going to have another awesome guest, and we're going to share some light about being a mom in the gun community. So definitely stay tuned for more. You guys have a awesome, awesome evening and be
And
safe.
enjoy your weekend.
Thanks. Have a good one.